Sorry guys that we didn't get this up sooner. We tried, but things just got in the way and we weren't able to get this up until now. So this is going to conclude our first video of The Terminator. We're going to talk more about the casting, the original ending, and the reception after it was released. So here it is, part 2 of The Terminator. Alright guys, first before I begin, I just want to say that if any of you guys did not watch part 1 of the Terminator video yet, what are you thinking? So go check out part 1 and then come back and check out this video part 2. So now we're going to get into the casting. At first, James Cameron originally wanted his friend Lance Henriksen to play the hero Kyle Reese. However, the studio intervened and they wanted someone like Schwarzenegger to play the hero.
Hey, I think this guy's a couple cans short of a six-pack.
And they wanted somebody who could bring in both the domestic and foreign box office region, and they wanted to cast a new upcoming star, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I have nothing else to do, and I have nowhere else to go.
Now guys, you got to remember, at the time back in 1984, Schwarzenegger was not a big star as we know him today. He really only had a few films under his belt, and at the time he was just getting noticed in Hollywood, and the studio knew this. The studio knew that this guy was going to be a huge box office draw, and they wanted to capitalize on that and cast him as the hero. But of course, Cameron was completely against this. Mainly because if the hero was this big, bulky Schwarzenegger statue type guy, then it would be hard to identify with him and feel for him that there would be any kind of real threat against him. He also knew he would have to find somebody even bigger than Schwarzenegger's stature as the villain to go up against him. The studio had a brilliant idea of who to cast as the villain that could kind of, I guess, go up against Schwarzenegger. And I'm sure you've all heard this before already, but they wanted to cast this guy.
Oh my God!
Yeah, OJ. Now guys, really to be fair, at the time, Simpson was a huge star. He was all over the place and a worldwide household name. The studio also thought he could match, or I guess he could bulk up and match Schwarzenegger's stature. I personally don't see how that could happen, but whatever. The studio thought that O.J. Simpson would make the perfect killer Terminator machine. Cameron told the studio after meeting with O.J. Simpson that this guy was just too nice of a guy and no one would believe him to be this ruthless killer. Yeah. Good call, guys. So eventually the studio told James Cameron, look, you can choose who can play the Terminator if you meet Schwarzenegger for the role of Kyle Reese. Cameron relented and he agreed to meet with Schwarzenegger. However, he wanted to discourage Schwarzenegger from taking the part of Kyle Reese. So before he left to meet with Schwarzenegger, Wisher, his friend that's also writing the movie with him, turned around and asked, what's your plan? What are you going to do? Cameron turned to him and said,
I'm going to pick a fight.
This way, if Cameron went in with this attitude, Schwarzenegger would not even want to work with this guy, and he would turn down the role. However, the plan backfired when he met Schwarzenegger. In fact, Cameron said he was the coolest, sweetest guy. Schwarzenegger was just oozing with charisma and was extremely funny. Cameron was so surprised and kind of thrown back of how well they got along. In fact, he said that it was like we knew each other forever.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Also, to Cameron's surprise, Schwarzenegger started talking and focusing more on the villain aspect than the hero, and they both agreed on Cameron's vision for the film. However, in order to persuade the studio, Cameron sketched Arnie's head to match his vision of the cyborg to show the studio. Cameron rushed back to the studio and said, look guys, Schwarzenegger is not playing Kyle Reese, but he's going to make one hell of a Terminator. And the studio finally relented, and thus the Terminator was born.
Good. Yeah. Good, now we're having fun.
And what a grand, beautiful day it was. Promised myself I wouldn't cry. After that fiasco, James Cameron also found his Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton, and Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn. Perfect casting. Now before production started though, he had the cast, mainly Michael Biehn and Schwarzenegger, go through about 3 months of gun training. Arnie and Biehn went through hours every day on special weapons and firearm training, including special weapon techniques with handguns, shotguns, rifles, automatic assault guns. Biehn also learned how to make pipe bombs, which came in very handy. Schwarzenegger wanted to learn and did learn how to disassemble and reassemble firearms blindfolded, along with learning how to fire both with right and left-handed and to fire without blinking. Schwarzenegger said this was extremely hard to do, but he needed to do it because he wanted his gunplay to look authentic and automatic and instinctive like a robot. Now we're going to get into some of the production. And during the production, because of the very low budget of roughly only $6 million, the crew had to rely on guerrilla-type filmmaking. Cameron learned this technique from his days working with Roger Corman as a cameraman. Now guys, if you're not sure exactly what guerrilla filmmaking is, what it means is that really they had to shoot outside in the city illegally because they couldn't afford permits or sets or a big crew, which is why the majority of the movie really takes place at night. Cameron said that they would have to go from location to location to location, shoot for just a few minutes at a time, then quickly move to another location before they were caught. If you don't have a permit and you're filming on location in the city limits, you're going to get fined or even arrested. This also meant for most of the shoot, they could only afford to do one take. The whole cast and crew said it was incredibly stressful, but also the funnest time they've ever had making a film. And guys, when they were shooting this scene, Cameron wanted to have both Arnie's fist punching through the windshield, but also his body in the same frame, which is really difficult to do. And again, because of such a low budget, they couldn't afford extra film stock to shoot another take, and they couldn't afford another breakaway windshield in case the stunt went wrong. But Schwarzenegger's stunt coordinator and effects supervisor rehearsed the scene time and time again with Schwarzenegger to get the shot just right, and it's fantastic! Guys, it's just a brilliant scene, and back in 1984, no one really ever saw anything like this before, and it just blew everybody's minds away when they saw this chase scene. It's just a brilliant scene, and a scene that shouldn't have worked in just one take, but it did. Now, one thing about having such a small budget is that during production, the studio really left Cameron alone. They let him do really essentially what he wanted. It's very rare for studios to just leave directors alone, even on small productions anymore. You just don't see that. So after production wrapped, Cameron went into post-production. This is when he met some interference from an executive at Hemdale. But he actually wanted to change the entire ending, or the flow of the ending. Daly wanted to end the film after the tanker explosion. Cameron, of course, wasn't having that. I mean, can you guys imagine watching the Terminator and it ends like this?
Kyle! Kyle! We did it, Kyle! We got it!
Yeah, pretty empty ending. I mean, it just ends. And then it's like, okay. And of course, Cameron knew this. He knew that without revealing the Terminator after the explosion, without that fantastic chase scene throughout the robotic factory, and of course, leading to the ominous final scene, there would be no movie. That's the movie. And it would feel completely empty, and the audience would be cheated. And again, guys, thanks to Gillian Hurd for jumping in and intervening once again. Daly finally relented, and thankfully, Cameron got the ending that he wanted, and it is a perfect ending. So guys, the Terminator opened on October 26, 1984, and it just exploded. It was a huge hit both at the box office and with viewers. Critics were hailing it as a cinematic landmark and a modern classic, and it really is. It not only grew into a cultural phenomenon spawning sequels, games, comics, TV show, even a 3D ride at Universal Studios, but it also catapulted James Cameron as an A-list writer-director, giving him his next film of Aliens. It also solidified Arnold Schwarzenegger as an A-list box office draw and a huge action star. And of course, guys, this movie gave us this famous line.
I'll be back.
I mean, who doesn't know that line? Everyone around the world knows that line. Even if you've never seen the movie, you know that line. It was also entered as number 36 in AFI's most quotable movie lines in history. The Terminator also created a whole new genre of film and a new way of making films, which is still felt even today, and has completely earned its place as one of the most influential films of all time. Well guys, that's the end of our first part of our Terminator series, the Terminator Parts 1 and 2. Next up, we're going to be exploring Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Guys, we just had a blast making this video. It was a lot of fun, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. But now we want to leave this video into your hands. What do you guys think of the Terminator? What's your favorite movie out of the franchise? Leave your comments down below. If we may have missed something in this video, then please let us know down below, and let's discuss about this movie. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't done so already, definitely subscribe down below so you can be notified when our next videos will be up. And we're going to have reviews of Jason Bourne, Suicide Squad, Star Trek Beyond, and we have some other videos that are coming up. Also, guys, if you haven't done so already, check out our new monthly giveaway for August. It's a Blu-ray, and go check out that video and see how you can enter to win it. So as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks so much for subscribing, and we'll see you in the future.